Morgan Irish fans, and welcome to this week's edition of Inside Notre Dame Football with Brian Kelly. I'm Jack Nolan, joined as always by the head coach of the now third-ranked Fighting Irish. And Brian, your team did not look as impressive as many observers expected it to against Louisville, but I have known you long enough to know you greatly value and respect every winning effort by your team. So let's begin with the things you liked about your 12-7 win over the Cardinals.
Well, first of all, defensively, anytime you hold what we consider a very good offense in Louisville to 7 points and take away two of their really good players, their running back and wide receiver, you're doing some really good things defensively. So I think we start there. And then the ability to run for over 200 yards again. So, two very important parts of winning is the ability to stop the run and to run the football. We really like that. There are things that we've got to get better at. Obviously, our red zone offense has to get better. We've got to make plays down in that area where we can score points. And so, those are things that are certainly correctable. But the big picture is when you have an offense that can run the football effectively, you can take over with 7 minutes and 55 seconds left in the game, and your opponent has three timeouts left, and they never get the ball back. That's a good thing.
Now, and you've mentioned it, the focus is always on your quarterback, Ian Book. Even with 21 yards deducted because of sacks, he rushed for 47 yards against Louisville to move into second place behind Tony Rice on the all-time Notre Dame rushing yardage list. That means he has run for more yards than Paul Hornung, Joe Theismann, Tom Clements, Brandon Wimbush. Pretty good company.
Yeah, and he's undefeated as a starter at home. Not bad either. So he's a winner. And look, everybody has an opinion. Everybody is an expert on quarterback play because it's the most scrutinized position in football. And so the Notre Dame quarterback, it comes with that, and he understands that. But he's a winner. And at the end of the day, if you look at what he did in the fourth quarter, came up with some huge third down conversions. I think we were 9 of 15 on third down. Made some huge plays for us. Ian Book is a winner, and that's what we love about him.
Coach and I will be back to take a look at all the big plays from Notre Dame's win over Louisville right after this timeout. It's time now for our game breakdown, brought to you by Cannon. Coach, on your first possession, two receivers who had been banged up were able to catch their first passes of the year. Kevin Austin and Ben Skowronek, guys who you need to play big roles for you the rest of this season.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Jack. And it was good to see Kevin Austin back after, breaking his foot in preseason camp. And you could see what kind of receiver he's going to be. That was just a little 5-yard route, and he turned it into, I think it was the longest reception of the day, where he made somebody miss and ran up the sideline. And Ben had some big plays for us. So it was nice to get Ben, in the offense. And as I said, some key conversions for us in the fourth quarter.
Those two catches helped set up Jonathan Doerr's first of two first-half field goals in swirling winds.
Certainly matured, and I love the fact that he plays now this game with a different level of confidence, and that he's built on being successful. He's made a lot of big kicks for us, and we had some difficult conditions on Saturday. The winds were swirling, sometimes gusting up to over 35 miles an hour, and he went out there and he did his job. And so really hats off to him and the way he's handled himself over the last few years.
Now, your defense was ready to go right from the beginning of the game. And on Louisville's second and third possessions, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah came up with a total of 3 tackles for loss to help force a couple of Louisville punts.
Well, he's an explosive player, and he continues to show himself as being one of the top players in the country. His ability to defeat blocks, tackle in the open field, makes it very difficult to run his way. Somebody that you have to play or be accounted for on every play, because he can obviously make plays in the backfield. I think we had 7 or 8 tackles for a loss again, and that's a disruptive defense.
Now, you took the lead for good on a terrific scramble and 13-yard touchdown run by Ian Book on 3rd and 8 from the Louisville 13.
Yeah. Again, Ian made a big play on that. He probably could have made it a little easier on himself, but again, his athletic ability showed itself on that play and was able to get in which was obviously a very big score for us in the third quarter.
It would be great if you could give guys experience pills, but you can't. Sean Crawford has 6 seasons now. He's in his 6th season, and he had a heck of a game. You gave him the game ball. He tied for the team lead in tackles with 6, including a tackle for loss. And he made a terrific play to break up what would have been a big game for the Cardinals on the last play of the third quarter.
Yeah, it was a great play coming off the hash. Tariq Bracy was sinking under a corner route, and Tariq had a deflection on it, but the receiver went up, was going to make a really good catch, and Crawford stayed with it, finished the play off, got the ball out, and that's the kind of player he is. Wherever you ask him to play, corner, safety, whether you're blitzing him, putting him in the middle of the field at the nickel position, he does a little bit of everything for us, and that's why he's so valuable to us.
Fair to say that the defense for you was dominant in this game, but you can make a case that from a physicality standpoint, so is your offense. You talked about it in the first segment of the show. You led 12-7 with 7 minutes and 55 seconds left in the game when you got the ball back, and you ran 14 plays and never gave it back. And you have to be physical to do that.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, they knew it was coming, and they had to defend us. And I love the resolve and the mental toughness of a group that says we're going to end this football game. And they had 3 timeouts. So, the ability to make them burn their 3 timeouts while you're running the football, pretty extraordinary group of guys that say we're going to end the game here on offense, and they certainly did that.
So the Irish move to 4-0 with a gritty 12-7 win over Louisville. It's Notre Dame's 10th straight win. No one in the Power 5 has a longer active winning streak. Coach Kelly will break down a number of the biggest plays from the win over Louisville when we return on the Brian Kelly Show, presented by TireRack.com, the ultimate in contactless tire buying. Access to the Notre Dame sidelines during games has always been very limited and is even more limited during the current coronavirus pandemic. But a number of our Fighting Irish media colleagues are members of the Notre Dame football bubble, which enables them to give you an exclusive behind-the-scenes look at every Notre Dame game every week in a feature we call Icon. Here's the Louisville edition.
If this unit's going to be anything, it's relentless. And we know that bad things will happen today. Can we just set our minds to respond with our competitive best? Throw the next punch.
Today they go for a 22nd consecutive home victory, and here come the Irish. Throws broken up. Kyle Hamilton.
2 scoring drives, both ending with a field goal. So at halftime, Notre Dame leading Louisville 6-0.
Listen, everybody understands what we need to do and how to do it. But the fact of the matter is, we've got to crank it up. We're in a dogfight, okay? That team's got life. They believe. So you're in a battle now. But there has to be a tenacity. There's got to be a will. And there's got to be a sense of urgency from every man in this locker room. When we touch this field, we've got 30 minutes left to decide the outcome. Let's go do something about it.
Let's go! Notre Dame dials up. It scrambles. Take off, look! Take off, look! Lower the shoulder. Reach for the pylon. And in for the touchdown. And the Irish are back on top. You got your back. Let's go, D. Downfield. And it is deflected. Just like that. Go back to the other side. Look out. Dalen Hayes with the big hit. Notre Dame has come up with 3 big third down conversions on this drive, and that might seal the fate of this game.
I'm here to tell you the truth. You did a lot of really good things today, but you're going to be met with stiff competition when you're one of the top 5 teams in the country. You got to find ways to win, and we won today. What I was equally proud of is we had some guys step up today. His versatility, his selflessness, one of our leaders on our football team, and he gets the game ball, and that's Sean Crawford.
1, 2, 3, 4.
It's time now for Instant Reaction, brought to you by SiriusXM. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah has developed into one of the most dynamic defensive players in all of college football. After 4 games, he leads the Irish in tackles for loss with 6 and is tied for the team lead in tackles with 20. Saturday against Louisville, Owusu-Koramoah helped the Irish defense hold the potentially explosive Cardinal offense to just 7 points by making 5 tackles, including a game-high 3 tackles for loss. Here's what Jeremiah had to say when he met with the media after the game.
We will go ahead and continue with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. The first question is from Eric Hansen.
Hi, Jeremiah. You know, Tutu Atwell and Javian Hawkins are 2 of the most explosive offensive players in the ACC. How were you guys able to hold their games down tonight?
The first thing you do with both of them is make sure you understand their tendencies. Tendencies is a huge thing when you're talking about defending great players. So with those 2 in particular, we know that they like to run long. We know that they like to go on jets. So that was one thing that we really tried to key in on when defending those 2.
And we'll go next to Tyler James.
Jeremiah, how does the intensity level change for the defense in a low-scoring game like this when you know you can't really make many mistakes?
We just try to stay as consistent as possible, making sure that you keep the energy up on the sidelines, making sure that you're rooting the offense on, and making sure that everybody's on one accord. So when you're talking about playing a slow-paced game, you want to make sure that everything stays consistent, everything stays the same, and just continue to play to our best of our abilities.
We'll go next to Nathan Atkins.
Jeremiah, how are you feeling physically? 4 games into the season, it looked like against Florida State you started wearing shoulder brace or shoulder cups. So how are you doing?
I'm doing well physically. That's the name of the game is pain. So you want to make sure that you take the Sundays and you take the week to rehab and make sure everything is 100% for the next game. So you just take precautions and just make sure that you can go back out the next game and play to the best that you can. So.
And as a reminder, please use the raise hand function if you do have a question. We'll go ahead and go to Pete Sampson.
Hey, Jeremiah, Dalen talked about sort of simplifying the defense this week. What's an example of that? What's something that you guys sort of cleaned up by making it simpler today that, maybe wasn't as sharp last week?
Just cutting down the amount of calls that we have, just making it easy for everybody to understand, to be able to go out and play really fast. So that was really what we keyed in on this week, is playing fast and playing physical. So when you take out some of the calls and you take out a lot of the checks and things like that, you start to get more comfortable in the defense. So that was one thing that we keyed in on, just making sure that we understood what was at hand, because Louisville does not play a lot of different offenses. So you want to make sure that you cut down the defensive calls when defending Louisville. So.
And we will circle back to Nathan Atkins.
Jeremiah, on Dalen's big play, he said he was doing his best Woo impersonation there. Out of 10, what would you give him?
Man, 11. That's my boy. Yeah, it's a good play. Good play made by Dalen Hayes.
And we'll go next to Tyler James.
Jeremiah, what did Louisville do differently on that first drive of the second half to kind of move the ball on you guys?
Say it one more time. Excuse me.
What did Louisville do differently on that first drive of the second half to move the ball down the field and score on you guys?
Just mix things up. They were running a bunch of squeeze in the first half, and we kind of got used to defending what they were throwing at us, and just really space us out a little bit in the second half and making sure that we stayed on our toes. So that was one thing they did in particular. So.
And it's time now for Irish Intel, sponsored by the experts at TireRack.com. This is where we let Coach control the video and get into the X's and O's of why a play worked. And our first play is on the first drive of the game in the first quarter. a 16-yard Ian Book completion to Ben Skowronek on 3rd and 10 to keep the first scoring drive alive.
Yeah, 3rd and long, they're much more of a quarters team. We're looking to clear out the middle, and you can see Ben breaks it back into the middle of the field here, and Ian steps up in the pocket, delivers a nice ball, and we thought this was Ben's first catch, and it looked like he was going to go the other way, but picks up a big first down for us and keeps the drive alive.
Coach, our second play this week is in the 3rd quarter. Ian Book's scramble and 13-yard touchdown that gave you a 12-7 lead.
Yeah, this is a short field boundary flood where we're trying to get 3 receivers into the short field. Ian looks to the boundary, doesn't see it, and then there's so much field that's not defended. He decides to take off and does a little tightrope down the sideline and gets us our touchdown that obviously puts us in a good position and responding from the 3rd quarter touchdown that Louisville had just scored.
The last play of the 3rd quarter, Sean Crawford breaks up a pass to Des Fitzpatrick that prevents a 30-yard gain for Louisville on 2nd and 16 from the Cardinals' 38-yard line.
Yeah, you can see that they're in a tight set here. They're running a smash concept where they're trying to keep the corner, Tariq Bracy, from sinking underneath this corner out, but Sean Crawford is the deep safety. He comes off the hash, and he finishes the play by pulling the ball out from Des Fitzpatrick here. You can see at the top of the screen right here, he goes up and really strips the football right here from Fitzpatrick. Just a great play by Sean Crawford.
Coach, thank you. It is always entertaining and informative to go into the film room with you.
Thanks, Jack. Appreciate it.
That wraps up this week's Irish Intel segment brought to you by TireRack.com. Coach and I will return to wrap up this edition of Inside Notre Dame Football right after this timeout. Brian, there are a number of new challenges for your team this week, with the first being going on the road for the first time this season during the coronavirus pandemic. Talk about those challenges.
Well, first of all, you're leaving campus for the first time, so that introduces air travel, buses, hotels that are away from, your normal routine. So, taking extra care and caution. You're running in contact with people that you haven't been around before. So, all those things have to be factored in, and you have to be doubling down on all of your procedures and protocols in terms of safety. And again, our guys recognize the fact that being on the road for the first time is going to be a challenge and one that we're going to have to do a really good job with.
Your opponent this weekend is a 3-3 Pitt team that has already beaten Syracuse and Louisville at Heinz Field. What challenges will they pose for your team?
Outstanding defense, one of the top defenses in the country, maybe one of the best defensive lines in the country. So we know what they have there. They played without their starting quarterback this week. We expect them back next week. Well coached. We know Coach Narduzzi and his staff are going to have his football team. They always play us well. We know those Pitt games are always traditionally hard fought, low scoring, tough physical games. Expect another one at Heinz Field.
Brian, thank you. Good luck this weekend.
Thanks, Jack.
That will do it for this week's edition of Inside Notre Dame Football. Coach and I will return next week to break down all the highlights of the Notre Dame Pitt game. Until then, for Coach Kelly, I'm Jack Nolan. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, go Irish.